Thank you. And thank you, APAC Med, for the invitation and this opportunity. I clearly see some of us have taken care of our stomach hunger and are interested in intellectual curiosity, and hopefully through this session we will be able to satisfy that intellectual curiosity and that intellectual hunger. I think to begin with, India has set a very ambitious goal of universal health coverage by 2030. And then the idea is to provide quality, affordable care to the entire population. And one of the aspects to look at quality or to provide quality care is to be able to provide innovative products that can enable this quality care to be provided to the vast population. And in that context, focusing on health technology assessment, outcomes, focusing on conversation between payer, provider, and MedTech companies becomes critical to make sure innovative MedTech products become a part of the care regime for the larger segment of the population. So the way we will pursue this panel discussion is largely into two parts. The first part will focus on the situation today, right, where I think the panel that we have a mixture of all the three relevant stakeholders will talk about the current situation today from their perspective, what challenges they face, what is the process that they undertake. And in the next section, we'll talk about what needs to be done to make sure innovative MedTech products become part of the larger care regime for India's population. So first, let me begin with and come to you, Shishir. In the Indian context, if you today want to launch an innovative MedTech product, can you explain the process that you need to undertake by which you have to demonstrate the value to the payer and the provider, and how easy, difficult that process is today?
Thank you, Ashish. And a very appropriate question because as most healthcare companies, we try to bring in innovative products to India, make it accessible for our patients in India. But at the same time, again, I will repeat, many of us have already said that we are a complex healthcare environment in India, a very complex healthcare system, although at a nascent stage, but at the same time, we need to bring in a lot of streamlining of the processes that we adopt. If you look at it, we have a large disease burden, a large, primarily out-of-pocket population paying for it, low penetration of insurance. But at the same time, we do not have evolved processes like some of the developed markets, whether it is the healthcare, health technology assessment, or reimbursement pathways. So that is something which is just starting out, not really dependent. So when we bring in innovative products into India, so it's basically like a three-pronged approach. The first one is the regulatory clearances. So we get all the different approvals based on some of the data that we have, which are mostly from outside of India. But getting those approval also has a lot of different steps, which also require some clinical trials, local trials, especially when they are Class C and Class D. And that leads to some duplication, but at the end of the day, that is the need of the process. Getting the regulatory approval does not mean adoption. It is just bringing the product into India. And the real task starts with the payers as well as the providers. So when we look at the payers are all pressure. They need to really balance quality with affordability. They are trying to also ensure that the products which are used on patients are of acceptable, significant quality. They do the job they are meant for. But they do not have a really unified way of assessing a product. So it all depends on different advocacy within the hospital. Hospital committees are there, physician choice is there, and of course cost negotiation, etc. And yes, does it really get into my own, does it integrate with my clinical pathway inside the hospital? Is it easy to use? What are the training needs? Needs for the physicians, as well as the other hospital staff in managing or handling those products. So those are some of the steps which are needed for a product to get accepted. When it becomes a first-time product in the market, there will be a need for a local registry also, or local trials. For example, if you look at drug-eluting stents when they started out, so there were a number of registries which were created to establish the cost effectiveness of those therapies. Like restenosis rates were lower, overall cost of a patient treatment over a period of time, how it gets lowered over a period of time. Now on the payer side, it's pretty fragmented. If you look at Ayushman Bharat, it's our largest public insurance initiative. So far, the prices, the packages of the procedures have been established by discussions within the providers or the key physicians coming together based on some historical data. But over a period of time now, we've established also a health technology, finance and technology assessment unit, which is trying to build in those processes for inclusion of certain innovative products within the Ayushman Bharat scheme. More and more insurers are also looking at utilizing the HTA data, and I'm sure Amitabh will speak about it, on how that HTA data, etc., can be more prevalent when we are looking at getting it done. So overall, if you look at it, it's always a multi-pronged approach. We are talking to the hospitals, the insurers are talking to the hospitals, but the three of us are never talking to each other on a common platform. We also do not have a HTA platform where everybody can come together and find out, okay, what benefit this product gives and what should be the right reimbursement. So yes, it's not very structured, it is not very inclusive, but it's working so far, and there is a need to really changes as we keep moving ahead.
No, thanks, Shishir. I think wonderful points you highlighted. While we have started the journey towards health technology assessment and related processes, we are still early stages. We don't talk to each other. I think even in one of the previous sessions we heard, right, the first session, that let's talk, one of the panelists has mentioned. So I think that's another important element that you highlighted. And I think also a unified approach where all stakeholders come together and undertake this conversation. Let me come to you, Dr. Amitabh, right, from a payer perspective, right? If you can set the context on when you are evaluating innovative MedTech products, what is the process that you undertake today, right? And any challenges that you face?
Yeah, sure. Let me give you a historical perspective, because if I don't give you that, you will never understand the context of where the payer side is coming from. I'll take you back, all the way back to 2002. So during those days, the insurance products used to be indemnity based. And the individual, which is the patient, used to choose the point of care and cost of care. After 2002, TPAs and the cashless system was introduced in our country. And our products all of a sudden became, from indemnity products, they became managed indemnity products, which means that TPAs were now responsible for getting their patients or beneficiary the right treatment at the right cost. Why I'm saying this is because it has a lot of impact on how the industry is going to shape up. At the same time, what happened was that the insurance sector was growing up. And the healthcare providers, looking at that, whenever an industry shapes us, there's a lot of confusion. So the healthcare providers went in for the kill. They started charging patients. And unfortunately, during those days, the insurance products were much open-ended. They did not have much restrictions. And as a result, what happened that most of the insurance companies started bleeding. See, this is where the turnaround happened, and the insurance companies then decided that they would create a preferred provider network, and this was followed by a GIPSA network, which is the public sector network. And everyone started negotiating with the hospitals and started negotiating rates. And they did not allow the healthcare providers to increase their rates for at least good 2-3 years because they were all bound by contracts. Now, at the same time, if you see that significant development happened, thanks to all of you, in the healthcare industry. Now, when this significant development and improvement and bringing new technologies was happening, the health insurance sector was also shaping up. And what happened? The insurance companies wanted to save costs, and the healthcare providers wanted to optimize their returns, or they wanted to increase their revenues. So as a result, there was a love and hate symbiotic relationship between the healthcare providers and the payers. Now, neither could live without each other, but everyone was trying to outdo each other. So I led negotiations many a times with various healthcare bodies and tried to arrive at the right forum. Also, if I look at all the development which was happening during those times, see, each and every new development which all of you came out with in our country was actually seen as a tool of increasing healthcare cost by the healthcare provider itself. Now, this was seen this is from a payer perspective, I want to tell you. So this was basically seen that there's another way now to increase the cost for the same surgery or for the same treatment. So it was not initially taken well by the insurance sector, and there were no regulations around it. Please understand, we do not have a health regulator. So what the insurance industry used to look at was whether it's an US FDA approved or not. Now, that was the only thing, and there was nobody to go back to from a provider perspective to get first, second, third opinions, because people who did not have access to newer technologies, I mean the healthcare providers and doctors who did not subscribe to it, were actually at the same time not speaking very highly of those technologies. So it was in a very confused state that the payer side was in, whether to adopt those technologies or not in the first place. Now, I'll give you a very simple example. Ministry of Ayush asked me that we want to go about and bring the coverage of Ayush, which is the Ayurveda, Unani, the Indian system of medicine, into the insurance fold. It took us 2 years, just a couple of us and the secretaries, and we took IRDA also along with us, and we convinced the entire insurance sector that, look, this is something which we need to include. If there's one Manish Jain sitting here, we along with CII and various forums started representing all of you, saying that these are newer methodologies of treatment which we should, as a payer side, adopt. What happened? Ultimately, all of us had to go back to IRDA, plead with them, request them, because by then the uptick of those technologies had, come up in India. Not when they were starting, but let's say a year or two down the line, because adoption happened. And that also helped the regulator say yes to our proposals. So we really had to lobby. Another perspective is that, look, when we talk to a healthcare provider and when they are presenting your technologies back to us, what is the invoice cost versus the MRP? There's a very significant difference there. Now, what I feel is that you should be talking directly to the payer, to the payers, trying to prove your point. Because as an insurance company, we really don't understand and we don't know and we can't interfere in the medical treatment. But at least we have the right to choose the best treatment, the best possible ways to go about the treatment and at the right cost. So that's one thing which I would like to really point out for all of you. I also feel that going forward, the, uh, the payer perspective from a payer side, uh, there are going to be standards which are going to be set. And then we will leave it to the healthcare providers that, look, if you want to treat the insured patients, then at least these are the minimum standards which you have to subscribe to.
Thanks, Dr. Abhitav. I think a couple of very relevant points of highlighting the commercial aspects of increase in revenue for one part of the stakeholder and how to manage cost for the other part. And I think conversations will help understand each other's pain point, right? And I think the other thing you also mentioned was currently the conversation happens through a provider because it's a provider who's actually the stakeholder in between both the prayer as well as the MedTech company. So thank you for that. And I loved your statement about love and hate symbiotic relationship. So coming to you, Dr. Dev Kishore, right? And Dr. Dev Kishore, while sort of he's from BioMeriu, has worked in the hospital providers space for the last 14 years before this. So we are going to leverage his experience as a provider to gain insights on what sort of the provider challenges they face when they are adopting innovative MedTech companies, MedTech products. So from a provider perspective, again, given some of the points that got highlighted from other stakeholders in terms of a lack of a unified approach, or there is less coverage in different insurance providers and so on and so forth. How does it impact your ability to invest in innovative MedTech companies, especially given India was 70% out-of-pocket expenditure a few years back. Today we are 40%. So almost for major, larger providers, insurance companies are between 40 to 60% of revenue. Now, given the role they play and given the challenges that got highlighted, does it impact your ability to invest in innovative MedTech products?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for this question. Thanks for having me. Yes, I think in the healthcare sector, I did come across a lot of such situations, where, we really had to take care of such situations and had to justify not only towards the patients, but also towards certain, even at the medical legal front. So things are not easy. Definitely things are not easy. So if you ask me the impact of this, this value assessment framework, yes, it does impact healthcare providers a lot. We do understand, certain technological innovations have, really impact patient outcomes. We do understand, and also many of the providers, healthcare providers, do understand that. But unless and until there is some unified approach, I think then it remains a challenge. Now, how this can impact, yes, I can just tell you, maybe there are few areas how it gets impacted. So number one, definitely financial predictability for the hospitals, unpredictability for the hospitals. And this is a huge challenge because there is always some uncertainty. So whether we can really allocate some capital budget, I think that's a concern. So yes, the clinical value is often, very well established. We do understand from I'm an infectious physician, so many of the things are very much known, but overall, this financial unpredictability definitely impacts, the decision making, and often the overall decision making going towards adoption becomes slow. So that's definitely a challenge. Next is alignment with, patient outcomes. So now the problem is, when we talk about advanced medical technologies, or even as a matter of fact, certain diagnostic innovations, we do understand, how it impacts the patient outcomes. But at the end, at times, it becomes insurer-specific. So there are certain insurer-specific criteria which takes the final call. And that's not a great justice towards the patients. So I work in the field of AMR AMS, so where I need, we do understand, taking a very prompt decision in choosing the right diagnostics, taking a very prompt decision in choosing the right antimicrobial is essential. And the very, very essential part over is time. You cannot take a decision whether you'll get reimbursed later or not, whether the patient is affordable at the present or later, you have number of dialogues with the patient relatives, you lose time. So maybe everything gets settled, maybe you get full reimbursement, but you lose time. And maybe that can translate into lives. So that, I think that's very, very important. And for us, from the healthcare perspective, that's a very important thing that we must not forget. Even if we get everything, that may still cost lives. So, and definitely, you know, in the hospital, so there are mixed population. So maybe one insurer is giving you full reimbursement, the another insurer is not giving full. So how to decide from the healthcare point of view? It's not easy. I think there are multiple patients, different affordability, and the different clinical conditions. So what to treat? Definitely we have to treat the patient first, then all these angles come second, right? So with this mixed population, often it becomes very difficult to take a speedy or timely call. Because from the healthcare, as I heard that, you know, the clinical pathway is very, very important. So from the healthcare, we always love to have an established algorithm, wherein all the patients are largely, they get the, you know, the unified approach. But this is where things get jeopardized when you have a mixed population, where somebody under X insurance and somebody under Y insurance, X gives you 100% and Y gives you maybe 50% or 70%. So that becomes a challenge from the healthcare perspective. And lastly, and the speed of adoption, the equity of access. I think that's, I partly address that. So if the, you know, if it is inconsistent or fragmented, then there is always a challenge from the healthcare. We always wait for a critical mass. If we have the critical mass for any advanced, innovative diagnostic or any advanced medical technology, we wait for the critical mass, then only we adopt for the hospital pathway. That's important for the hospital to, you know, from the business point of view, but may not be always you know, justice towards the patient's outcome. And lastly, when things get harmonized, so definitely that's the aim, that's the dream-like situation from the healthcare, that, you know, things get, you know, streamlined, channelized, and we can, that equity of access is very, very important. And often we come across certain situations where we assume that patient is not affordable. I have come across situations where the patient challenges us, what made you think that we are not affordable or will not get 100% reimbursement? So a lot of ambiguities, a lot of ifs and buts, and, you know, so it's a difficult call from the healthcare. And we always talk about inpatients, right? But if you look into the other perspective, outpatients, so they also require this kind of supports. We generally do not talk about them, but if this advanced medical technologies, advanced diagnostics can be applied at the right time, maybe we can prevent, you know, hospital admission. And I'm not talking about outcome, but, you know, really, we really need to look into this entire gamut in a holistic way, and certainly keeping patient outcome in mind.
No, thanks, Dr. Divkush. I think re-emphasize the point about collaboration, but more importantly, if these decisions are not taken, how they can impact patient life and patient care quality. Thank you for that. Coming to you, Paul, right, and I think you heard all the stakeholders using different words to reflect value assessment, HT, and so on and so forth. In your experience, are MedTech companies investing sufficiently to establish health technology assessment and local evidence generation, right, to make sure that innovative products are given the right value and are adopted more democratically across various providers and payers?
First, I'd just like to say very excited to be here. It's my first time at the APAC Med Congress, and it's my first time in India. So I've been here learning quite a bit these last day and a half, and even now listening to the panel, this is actually value added for me. I wish I had my notebook out, but I'm trying to mentally take as much notes as I can.
So we can assume you are confused, right? Because India is a complex country.
Yeah, so I'm in a global role at Alcon. They're in Fort Worth, Texas, and so came quite a distance to be here. But very excited to be here, and again, learning a lot. So Alcon's the world's largest eye care device company, and also getting back into the pharmaceutical business as well. So really an exciting place to be at this point in my career. And you know, are aware of the fact that 80 to 90% of all vision-related illness, disease, even blindness itself is preventable. But unfortunately, more than 1 billion people in the world do not have access to good quality eye care. So that really drives us at Alcon, and you know, our mission is to help people actually see. So it's as simple as that. But you know, we have, in terms of how we're set up from a manufacturer perspective, is obviously we have regulatory approval, which is a big hurdle for market access, and we've got one of the best regulatory affairs teams here in APAC that I've been a part of. And then I run the market access organization at Alcon, and it's really a research, evidence-centered, data-centered organization. Without data, without differentiation, we're not going to be too successful in markets like India. So data is incredibly important. And we have a function within market access called healthcare economics and outcomes research. We've built that team up pretty substantially at Alcon. And again, we've got some of the finest health economists, I think, in the world on that team. In fact, a couple of those health economists are from India. So a lot of talent coming out of India, a lot of resources. As a matter of fact, we're going to Bangalore tomorrow to potentially bring more health economic resources into Alcon, because we recognize that things are getting set up here in India. You know, there seems to be a lot of potential, and the fact that we're up here talking about it, the different healthcare decision makers and the manufacturers coming together, that's really, as it's been talked about, what it's going to take. So when we, at Alcon, when we manufacture devices, we're heavily integrating our health economic function into the new product development process. So throughout the product development process, we are conducting research on unmet needs. We're comparing the different standards of care, running health economic analysis, publishing studies, and so on and so forth, and developing resources that can be used with payers and providers and even patient education. And you know, we develop these resources. Also, we equip and empower our commercial organization to speak with providers. So we have health economic resources that we can share with providers in India, and we've launched several of those resources over the years. We also have a resource where we directly engage with our local reimbursement expert within Alcon. So we have our local reimbursement expert. Actually, he's here attending this meeting. Who we give him the resources he needs to engage with the payers of India. And you know, we engage with payers all over the world, and it's really critically important for us when we do so to understand who the key stakeholders are, which healthcare decision makers to engage with, what types of information do they need from us, right? Because we've done a lot of research, we've generated a lot of evidence, we've invested a lot in the new product development process. We want to make sure we are delivering it to the right stakeholders, providing them with the right information. And we need to have a deep understanding of those frameworks and those requirements within the country in order to effectively deliver it. And so being a part of this and joining this meeting this week has been essentially and critically important for me to get a deeper understanding of that. And I think it's very, very important to continue to develop these relationships, to continue to have these discussions. When we were preparing for this panel, I was learning things and seeing opportunities and exchange some business cards. So, you know, I think we've got a good path ahead.
Thanks, Paul. I think one of the most important points you highlighted was on data and how using that to create innovative product development. And I think you re-emphasize the point about stakeholder engagement. Let me come to you, Gurmeet, right? As a MedTech company, what are the challenges you foresee when you are launching an innovative product in India?
Yeah, thanks. So when you're the last speaker, there are advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages that some point of yours has already been spoken by someone else. Advantage is that you can analyze them and give a proper perspective. So I'll choose the later. So before I answer my challenges, I'd like to give a perspective, you know, to everyone here about 3 important elements. First, to understand that if I'm a company based out of India, I'm a company based out of UK, and I'm a company based out of US, what difference would it mean to me if I launch a new technology? Number 2, the issues of the healthcare delivery, and number 3, my challenges today in India. So going to number 1, if I'm a company in India versus UK versus US. So US and UK, the HTA, which we also say the healthcare assessments, is pretty evolved. So in a nutshell, just to simplify it, if there are three people who are fighting for the price for their technology which should be reimbursed, there has to be a body that decides that what's the right price that has to be paid either by insurance or by anybody else. And the second important factor is the insurance and every payer provider should agree to that, and it should be a binding. Now, healthcare assessments without binding is academics, and this is typical of India. But now we go to the example again, back to this. I think the gold standard is NICE, which is UK's body, which is a National Institute of Clinical and Healthcare Excellence. So this is a body which has done which is probably a gold standard for the world. So you launch a technology. This is an institute that reviews your technology. Most important part of it is that they have huge network, and they have, starting from engineers to doctors to clinicians to NGOs to lawyers, everybody on board. Everybody assesses your technology. They look at something which we call as QALY, the quality adjusted life year, that how much are you extending the life of the patient with the new technology, and what is the quality of the life for the patient. It's not just about extension, but a good quality of life that has to be extended. So they view that. They are extremely transparent. They put it across for stakeholders. Even as an insurance buyer, you can comment on it. Everybody can comment on it. And then they go to NHS, the National Healthcare Scheme of UK, to tell them that this should be the right price to be reimbursed. Almost similar is done by CIER and CMS in US. So, but let's look at the Indian ecosystem today. So we also have an HTA, which is under NRIT, which is a national repository for all the healthcare resources, and which collects all the registry data from various hospitals. And by the way, I didn't tell you, this is wonderful data which is available to them. For every private hospitals, every government hospital, they look at what is the cost of doing the treatments, how many patients are coming, which diseases to get to prioritize. So all these things is being provided by them, and HTA falls under that. Unfortunately, in India, HTA is a body which is a panel of, let's say, 5 people sitting together, and they do some secondary research to decide what do you think should be a good price. And their idea is, because they are right now governed by lower the better. So if in case you are analyzing something, the senior officer wants you to tell them how cost effective can you make this particular device or a particular therapy. So they don't have panels, they don't have network, they don't know how to actually evaluate a device. And this HTA exists, again, only for government schemes like Ayushman Bharat, CGHS or something like that, but they have no role to play in the real world. Now, when we talk about real world, let's look at the insurance which you and me buy. If you go to GIPSA, you buy one of those national insurances like New India, United, or something like that, Oriental. Despite the fact that you will be buying a 50 lakh insurance, tomorrow you go for an angioplasty, and they have decided that they will reimburse the hospital only 2.5 lakh rupees. Despite having a 50 lakh insurance, your hospital will be compelled to do a procedure at 2.5 lakh rupees on you. And you paid a premium for 50 lakhs. So this is GIPSA, which is the General Insurance Provider Association for you. And then only 15% is a private insurance, which all of us know. And they are the ones you can still compel to pay the full amount. So when you say insurance and the providers, in India, the biggest challenge is there actually is no HTA. So for us, what Shishir said in the beginning, you launch a new technology, your sales and marketing goes, impresses a private hospital and asks for a price. Now, whether you get that price or you don't get that price, that actually depends on the sales pitch of your sales representative. So ultimately, this is what HTA is in India today. Now, this was part number 1. Part number 2, how it impacts healthcare delivery. The healthcare delivery is impacted because nobody in the system actually cares for the quality of the procedures. Now, I can also tell you, if you look at the balance sheets of, and I think Ashish would know this better, he's from one of those big fours, the balance sheets of the same private insurance companies in India and abroad, their EBITDAs and their profitabilities are not very different. And I'll tell you the reason. You want somebody to do a procedure like angioplasty. I come from cardiology, so I can give you a better analogy from a procedure of angioplasty which is used for treating heart attacks. So you say, in US or UK, your HTA will tell you, you can use this device, even to an extent of what they call as a a new technology add-on price, NTAP, which is very common in US, that if you have a new technology, even if it is not fully evaluated, they will give you something extra if the evidence is compulsive. But in India, if you have to undergo an angioplasty, there is a price, so 1,50,000, you have to do an angioplasty. Now, look at this conflict. Doctors would like to treat as little as possible because your repeat visits would mean repeat money. But nobody minds it. So at the end of the day, a good angioplasty in a country where you provide the complete benefit and based on quality or value-based insurance design, you give a complete therapy, patient does not come back to the hospital for next 10 to 15 years, and everything is fine. Here, same thing, you provide a therapy for 1.5 lakh rupees procedure, patient will come back every 3 years, and you end up putting the same kind of money, and yet impacting his quality of life. So this is the problem what happens when you don't have a evolved HTA. And this is the real challenge. And now I come to part C, which is my problem. My problem is I started Translumina in 2010. My vision was to create a company in India which has one of the best quality, one of the largest clinical evidence. So at that time, most of the companies were providing a 5-year evidence. But if you recall, when you go to a poor guy goes to a hospital, वो जब सबसे पहला question बोलता है, सर ये stents पे क्या guarantee है? For my expat friend, it's like, what's the guarantee? What's the warranty of the stents? And just because patients were paying from their pockets, we did huge trials, 10 years data, published it in American College of Cardiology, in top journals of the world, created the best facility to produce that. And in 2017, Government of India put a price control on stents. And they said, irrespective of the quality, whether you are giving, we will only reimburse you X amount. And the same price control now encouraged everybody else in the system, whether it is insurance, whether it is panels, whether it is, even a PSUs, the public sector units who do a reimburse, they will pick up that and said, this is your reimbursement. Now, what should be my motivation to do R&D, my motivation to do clinical data, my motivation to work on the new technology? And when government says, through NPPA, National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, that we are controlling the pricing of the pharmaceutical, you can do pharmaceuticals. The reason you can do pharmaceutical because India does not produce too many new pharmaceutical molecules. It is the generic pharmaceuticals. So the process of manufacturing is the key. For us, there is nothing as generic device, and especially when you're talking about the high-end devices, every technology has to create its own evidence in class 3, which is a highest risk device. So what would happen to companies in India like us? We will do our R&D, but we do our R&D not with our own market in view, which means I don't do my R&D for India. I have no incentive to do my R&D and clinical trials for India. I have an incentive because I look at the global market. Whereas for any company to prosper, the domestic market is a mecca. This is where you earn your first money. This is where US multinationals became big because US reimbursed good amounts to them. And problem for the patients, again, the same thing. You will get ordinary devices, and the biggest challenge is you will not even be aware about it because when you go to the hospital, you don't know what is the difference, what is the agreement between your providers, which is your insurance, versus the hospital. You have no idea. So these are the couple of challenges. And I'm again saying everything which the Indian companies want to do, it can multiply by another 5 times if we have a decent healthcare technology assessment systems in India. That's a challenge. Thank you.
No, thanks, Gurmeet, for that wonderful insights. I think clearly bringing out intricacies of HTA globally and where does India stand, but also highlighting how the current ecosystem enables or supports more conflict of interest, which might not lead to better patient outcomes, and also importantly, it might not encourage MedTech companies to innovate, given the challenges it faces. I think we are sort of extremely short of time. So I'll move towards, and we spoke about some of the challenges today in terms of not talking to each other, how the current HTA system is not fully enabled, and it's basis secondary research than actually real world medicine. I'll maybe give a minute to each of you where I think we'll go on to talk in terms of some of the solutions or action points that we should undertake, right, to make sure that going forward, right, the steps that we can undertake to make sure innovative MedTech products sort of are easily acceptable and become a norm in the Indian care ecosystem. So first, let me start with you, Paul. I think given your global experience, have you sort of seen examples where a more collaborative, outcome-oriented, partnership-driven approach has worked for innovative MedTech products?
Yeah, I spoke about our health economics and outcomes research team that we have, robust team that we have. That team so far hasn't done as much work for India as we'd like to. I think, we need to have a deeper understanding, and I think this is in the spirit of fostering the collaboration that we were all talking about, I think, throughout the Congress. And again, I've been learning so much, and I appreciate the challenges ahead, but the potential is so strong, and that's why we're going to continue to push and co-create solutions that will work best for India. You look at countries like UK that has NICE, you look at countries like France that has CNED, IMTS, Australia has the prescribed list, you've got the pass-through payment, new tech add-on payment process in the US. There's processes and frameworks that we are able to leverage our health economics work for and with submission of HTA analysis, submission of publications, and requirements that are really clearly laid out. And that's really the opportunity I think we have for India. We're jumping in with all of our resources and feet into India. Just need to understand those frameworks and processes, and we believe, and data access as well is important. I've already learned there's a huge repository of data we may be able to tap into, which got me excited. So all these things combined, we have a process and framework like that in India. We're ready to go, and we're happy to participate in the process of developing these solutions as well.
Got it. So I think good point, I think in terms of focus on data and some of the reference frameworks from global that we can leverage to develop an HTA equivalent from an Indian perspective. Let me come to you, Gurmeet, and you mentioned some of the challenges, right? But as a MedTech company, what action can you undertake, right, to enable facilitation and development of these HTA frameworks?
Yeah, so I think...
Sorry, again, 1 minute.
I'll just talk about 3 points. Point number 1, I think the Indian companies to take a responsibility of creating responsible MedTech, which means when you are doing class 3 devices or high-risk devices, you'll be surprised to know that over a period of last 5 years, our import dependency on the high-risk devices, or what we also call a high-end devices, have rather increased. It has gone for almost 81% to 85% today. So which means Indian MedTech must do innovation in the high-end devices, and they should do it credibly. Creating data, talking about the adverse events, being very transparent with the government. Second is, it is our responsibility also to train the government. So we know that we are a developing country. We know a couple of these things need to be evolved. So we are engaging for the last 7 years with the government and trying to tell them that why don't we educate you how to do that? At least the companies who create that evidence. That's point number 2. Point number 3, I think everybody who's sitting here has a responsibility. Please go back and look at your insurance seriously. Look at what your insurance providers are telling you. Understand your rights. Understand why you should not be reimbursed for the quality products if you are buying, like a cap which is much, much higher. So these 3 limited points.
Fair point, right? I think, do you think that training government is more of a unified approach that stakeholders should jointly undertake, or is it more of a MedTech company's responsibility?
Only, like, for example, I'm telling you, I think we spoke earlier and I was telling you, I think this was, and I should congratulate APACMed for that. This is the only association meeting where this topic was brought, in a public view. Otherwise, people don't talk about it. So you are right, it has to be a unified approach, and but there has to be enough manufacturers who do this unified approach. If we say we are very proud that we have 10,000 medical device manufacturers and 9,900 out of them are only in low-end medical devices, where HTA actually has no role to play. So then there will be no advocacy. So for advocacy, there has to be credible innovation that must start in India.
Got it. Fair point, right? And Amitabh, to you again, a minute, right? And I think picking up on this point about stakeholders coming together, do you think there's a need for more robust communication or a forum or a process to be set?
Yeah, before that, let me counter him a bit.
1 minute, huh?
Yeah, within a minute. Okay. Number 1, we should price our innovation or products as per Indian markets. Number 2, we should let everyone know who are the target patients. What we have seen is that the moment a healthcare provider adopts a new technology or comes out with anything where they have invested heavily, every patient who walks into that hospital is subjected to that machine or new technology, whether the patient requires it or not. Unfortunate, but true, because they want to recover their cost. The third thing is, yes, we need a collaborative approach. So how can you go about it? Number one, on one hand, you have the National Health Authority where you need to deal with them separately. And on the other hand, you have the representatives of the insurance company, which is the GI Council. So what I suggest is that the GI Council, representatives of various insurance companies, the MedTech providers, and the healthcare providers, I think they should have maybe to start with a quarterly meeting, there should be a steering committee where you should come out and tell everyone that what's on the plate to offer. And, and have consensus. Once that is done, the insurance sector will just flash it to all insurance companies that, look, this is what we want to cover and at this price point.
Thanks, Dr. Amitabh. I think along with this collaboration and mechanism, you also mentioned about governance, which I think is an important point you brought. And then picking up on that collaboration point, Shishir, what should be this ideal dialogue mechanism, right? Frequency, who all should be part of it? Any thoughts? 1 minute.
I know we do not have enough time and we can speak a lot about it. But in short, I believe that the stakeholders, who are the important stakeholders? It is the Ministry of Health, it is the CDSCO, payers, providers, maybe patient groups also. Why don't we think about creating a national health value council or something similar to that and come up with this kind of an advocacy group, which can actually make its outcome or the reimbursement guidelines, which are more binding, as we spoke about it. But more important than anything else, I think we need to start defining what is value in the Indian context. And that is something very important because at the end of the day, we all want patient-centric, data-driven, outcome-based, I will say reimbursement also. Yeah. And that is a journey that we've started and I'm sure that over the next 5 to 10 years we'll be able to cross.
Yeah, thanks. Dr. Devkishore, right, from a hospital perspective, this is talking about value assessment frameworks, HTA, local medicine, right, and hospitals, providers might play an important role. What support do you think they will need as we pursue this journey? Again, a minute, please.
Thank you. Yes, so definitely we have been hearing about this HTAs and health economic outcome research maybe. So as you can understand, healthcare, hospitals are integral part of this, evidence generation. It's good to talk about local data, but at the same time, we need to understand it should be synced with the complexities of the healthcare models of the country. It should be representative. So quality takes the front seat here, and it should be, the metrics should be standardized, methodology should be standardized, and we need to see whether really mature to analyze and interpret and apply those data for the country. So this is where definitely we need some support. And secondly, and thirdly, most importantly, financial and operational support in terms of management, trained manpower, and definitely, other supports as well. So these are the three supports.
Thanks. I think training is an important element that I think even when Gurmeet highlighted, people are doing secondary research for HTA came out strongly. But I think the most heartening, and just to wrap up, right, I felt was, I think all stakeholders aligned the importance of quality. Nobody mentioned that India sort of being a relatively not so rich population should compromise on quality. So I think that shows that all the three stakeholders can come on a common platform. And I think there needs to be a governance mechanism around it that creates an HTA framework which is suitable in the Indian context. And from a love and hate symbiotic relationship, we can move towards a love and non-hate symbiotic relationship. Thank you everyone, and thank you for the esteemed panel. Really insight inputs. Thank you.